to remember all women who have tragically lost their lives at the hands of a violent partner. The event starts with a 20-minute walk within the vicinity of Kettering Town Centre, which has an active nighttime economy. This will particularly be relevant as it will reinforce the message that every woman's right to be kept safe and feel safe, whether they're travelling at night, working in the nighttime economy, or enjoying a night out. It's absolutely important that women are protected from predators. The walk will be led by Dawn Thomas, the CEO of Northamptonshire Rape Crisis, and Emily Frederick from Northamptonshire Council. This will then be followed by a programme of speakers in the marketplace from county-wide support services, survivors of domestic abuse, music performance and a visual event to remember the Northampton victims of male abuse. I'm sure this event will be an inspiring, thought-provoking and moving event. The event is a result of some incredible partnership working over the past few months. The individuals and organisations who have supported the planning and delivery are clearly passionate about this issue and driven to improve women's safety and stop the cycle of male abuse. I want to acknowledge and extend my sincere thanks to everyone who has played a role in making this a reality. So I'm going to announce some of the partners, which are Survivors of Domestic Abuse, Kettering Street Pastors, Northamptonshire Voice, Northants Domestic Abuse Services, Northamptonshire Rape Crisis, Northamptonshire Rights Equality Council, EVE, Kettering Women's Centre, local community groups from the Kettering area, Northamptonshire Peace, and many licensed premises across Northamptonshire. We can do better, we need to do better, and we need to protect our females in society. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We now have public participation. We have one representative from Kettering Library who has asked to address the meeting. So I'd like to invite him to come to the lectern, please, and give your statement. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Chris Davison. I am the chair of Kettering Library. I'm also the chair of the Board of Trustees at Kettering Mind. And to the leader's point, we are also providing some mental health support because it may provide that walk a bit of a trigger for people. So we'll make sure we are available as required. And thank you. How do I address you, Madam Chair?
Madam Chair's fine.
Madam Chair's fine. I had the pleasure of accompanying Councillor Jenny and also Councillor Federitz as the Mayor of Kettering Town Council at a Summer Reading Challenge event in September where we celebrated 6 young people who had contributed to the Summer Reading Challenge being the best in Northamptonshire. We had 900 children in total come through, 500 started it and completed it successfully. We had over 1,000 people come through the library, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to address the meeting. I understand I have 3 minutes, is that correct?
Yes.
And my 3 questions are, subject to the approval of 6.807 million to fund the replacement of the Kettering Library roof and the associated repairs to the roof of the art gallery, what plans does Northamptonshire Council have in place to involve local community groups and organisations, together with elected representatives, in the proposed project team overseeing delivery of the scheme? At a time when NNC needs to build trust and confidence with the communities it serves, how is NNC planning to engage with the community in a meaningful and intentional way to ensure community representation? Secondly, what financial provision has been made within the 6.8 million cost estimate to cover the future maintenance and upkeep of the library and art gallery once the roof has been replaced, and to that extent, what policies and procedures does NNC have in place to maintain its estate and public buildings, particularly those that are Grade 2 listed and are of significant heritage status? And lastly, linked to that, how many years did it take before the gullies and gutterings surrounding the library were cleared and cleaned either by NNC or its predecessor organisations? Thank you.
Well, thank you. We're not able to debate your questions, but they are all matters of concern that will be looked at.
I'm grateful for your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. We have one public question which has been received. A copy of the question and the answer has been circulated. Please may I request that the questioner read out their question as submitted. You will receive a response to your question. You will then be invited to ask a supplementary question based upon the response provided. Please ensure it is a question and not a statement. You will be provided with a response to your supplementary question where necessary, or a written response after the meeting. If you'd like to come to the lectern and read your question.
Is that okay? Is that picking me up? Okay. With regard to the Wellingborough recall petition, and specifically the opening hours of the signing places, to allow for greater participation, can the weekday opening hours be extended until 7 p.m? And can the signing places be opened on the 2 remaining Saturdays before the deadline expires?
Okay, thank you. Well, you have the written response. Is there a supplementary question?
Yes, please, yeah. So at the conclusion then of the recall petition, will there be a public report and or record made available of the reasoning behind how, why and when available signing places were chosen with greater detail, as electors are looking for answers as to why they feel the process feels like access to democracy has been hindered?
Okay. Well, thank you for your question. There will be a written response to that.
Thank you for letting me do that.
Thank you very much. Okay. Can I please see Adele Wiley as Council's petition officer to respond? Oh, sorry.
Response, isn't it?
Okay, so we've got no petition here. Okay. Sorry, apologies everyone. We go on to item 7, which is, let me get my page right. Right. Okay, sorry everyone. Executive presentations. I understand there are no executive presentations on this occasion. God. Right. Agenda item 8, which is the selection and appointment of a head of paid service, chief executive. Adele Wiley has left the chamber for the duration of this item. May I please see Councillor Jason Smithers to present and move this report.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and it gives me great pleasure to present this report, which recommends the appointment of Adele Wiley as our new permanent Chief Executive at North Northamptonshire Council. Adele is an exceptional candidate and she brings a wealth of inspirational leadership experience. As the report notes, she has a proven track record in delivering through excellence in public services, and she has successfully demonstrated this in her current role here as the Executive Director of Customer and Governance and the Interim Director, Chief Executive, Deputy Chief Executive, and in her previous roles. I am pleased to say that we had an absolutely fantastic response to this recruitment campaign. We attracted an extremely high calibre of candidates. Our selection process was rigorous and inclusive and included several stages designed to test all the elements of a chief executive role, including technical interviews, stakeholder panels, and final interview stage. The employment subcommittee, which included all 3 group leaders, was unanimously recommending Adele for this critical appointment. I'd like to extend my thanks to everyone involved in this appointment and all the hard work and support of the unsuccessful applicants who invested a great deal of their time in commitment and applying for this position. I would also like to say a huge thanks to George Candler, our interim chief executive. George, your valuable input and high levels of professionalism and patience at time has been greatly appreciated. You have done a superb job of keeping us on course, and I look forward to continuing to work with you closely over the coming years. To conclude, this is a really exciting chapter in the next stage of North Northamptonshire's journey of becoming an exemplar in local government and being the best we can be. It is the next stage in building a modern council with a clear leadership and vision. I therefore move to the recommendation as set out in section 3 of the report to approve the appointment of Adele Wiley to the position of Permanent Chief Executive, Head of Paid Service, Returning Officer and Electoral Registrations Officer for North Northamptonshire Council. Wouldn't want to do a business card.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm sure we all echo those words of thanks to George Candler. May I please see a seconder for that motion? Councillor Keane.
I am very happy to second and endorse this recommendation for Adele Wiley to be the next Chief Executive of NNC. I was impressed with Adele's passion and energy for North Northamptonshire Council. She interviewed really well, and I look forward to seeing her acquire new skills to use within the Council. I'm sure Adele will work incredibly hard in her new role and work tirelessly for this Council. As the Labour Group leader, I look forward to working with her and my team, and I'm sure she will inject a lot of energy and passion into her stakeholder relations. The job of Chief Executive is incredibly important, and I would like to thank everyone who applied and worked on the recruitment process. I'd especially like to thank everyone who read through all the paperwork, watched all the videos, and spent 10 hours incredibly scrutinising the process as well. I'd like to thank George for everything he's done for North Northamptonshire Council as Interim Chief Executive, and I look forward to the next exciting chapter for North Northamptonshire Council. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I have a request to speak by Councillor Leanne Buckingham.
Thank you. I know our group has already spoken on the matter, and thank you very much for all the work you put into that engagement. But it must be called, we've got a female chief exec, and that's not to take anything away from anyone who's gone before, but what a wonderful time for the woman to take the helm and lead us. Well done, Adele.
Thank you. Councillor Fedorovich.
Thank you, Chair. Am I okay to sit? It's just a bit closer to the mic. I just wanted to say, well, on behalf of the group, but also for sitting on the panel, we had an incredible selection of candidates, really, truly, and I think that just shows quite how outstanding Adele is, and the fact that she did stand out above everybody. Her vision, I feel bad not talking straight to Adele, but the vision, the enthusiasm, the passion as well for North Northants, and I think that's something that yeah, we really need. We need to drive us forward into a new exciting direction. So yeah, very happy to back her and support her. And I look forward to see where we're going. But I also wanted to very much extend my thanks to George for his incredible professionalism and support throughout these last few months. It's been incredible working with you, and will continue to do so.
Thank you. Councillor Howell?
Thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to echo all the points made by all of our members today. It was a very vigorous process. It just goes to show that we at North Northamptonshire Council are prepared to invest in our own, are prepared to make sure that we allow anyone within this organisation to progress through the ranks and become a chief executive. I mean, what a fantastic achievement, and how brilliant it is, and it shows everybody who works within North Northamptonshire that you do have an opportunity here to make the best of our organisation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Smithers, would you like to speak again?
Sorry, yes, just to thank everybody for their positive comments towards Adele. It's a true success of a candidate that came in here as a monitoring officer, then was made to an executive director, and is now a chief executive officer. As Councillor Howe has already alluded to, it's about growing our own talent here at North Northamptonshire, and I think this is a really positive message to send out there to other young, inspiring individuals that wish to come through the local government ranks, and I wish Adele absolutely every success in her new role, and I look forward to working with her as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We will now move to the vote. Could I please ask you to use your electronic voting buttons, which appear on your microphone unit once the vote has commenced. You will have 30 seconds to vote. Thank you.
The vote is now commencing.
Don't seem to have a...
There are 10 seconds remaining. The vote has ended.
Chair, that is 60 votes in favour, 1 abstention and 0 against.
Thank you. The vote is carried. Thank you. Item 9. Can I please see Councillor David Brackenbury to move and present the report? Yeah.
Madam Chairman, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And well, continuing the theme of, at least I hope, continuing the theme of good news and consensus, here I have the pleasant duty to introduce the East Northamptonshire Local Plan Part 2. That's a sort of rather technical introduction for what will put our final building block in terms of planning policy for protection against unwanted development and for what was East Northamptonshire's vision for placemaking and planning in that area. The other 3 areas of North Northamptonshire, Corby, Kettering and Wellingborough, already have their Part 2 plans adopted. So this has been, as with all of these major planning policy documents, this has been a journey of some years. This has been a huge exercise with our officers and with members of the relevant Planning Policy Committee and elsewhere, as well as hundreds and hundreds of stakeholders, people who have been involved in contributing to developing this plan, whether they're developers, whether they're promoters, whether they're statutory consultees, whether they're people who are just have a genuine concern for their communities. As I say, hundreds and hundreds of people have fed into this, and thousands of representations have been received in the various consultations. So I think it's important to extend our thanks to everybody who contributed to building this plan. As I say, this has taken place for many years. The actual plan was submitted just before vesting day as one of the last duties of East Northamptonshire Council. It was then subjected to a rigorous public examination by the Planning Inspectorate, which went on for two weeks of sittings, in which, again, stakeholders of all sorts were able to make their cases. The Inspectorate then withdrew and crunched everything up, as they do, and came up with the fact that the plan was, in her opinion, considered sound. There were some modifications. There always are. These things almost never go through on the nod. There were, of course, some main modifications which were taken into consideration and accepted by Northamptonshire Council. So this has been through the executive here at Northamptonshire Council, and we recommended that Council supports the content of the Local Plan Part 2 as set out in Appendix A, so anybody who's got time to read about 400 pages of detailed information can see it. To delegate authority to myself in consultation with the Assistant Director for Growth and Regeneration to make any minor alterations and factual updates and typographical errors. This is normal practice. To prepare and publish the local plan adoption statement, which is Appendix B, and the sustainability appraisal statement at Appendix C, and to fulfil any other duties. So it's very good because now in Northamptonshire Council we will have a full suite of planning policy documentation which provides protection against unwanted development and sets out this council's policy vision for how we think development should be. It's very important because a number of councils up and down the land don't have local plans, and then you are governed very much by speculative application and appeal. So with that, I warmly commend this. I thank everybody who's been involved, and with your indulgence, Chair, I move for recommendations at paragraph 3, 3.1. Thank you.
Thank you. May I please see a seconder? Councillor Mercer.
Yes, the microphone is on now. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Having been on the previous East Northants Planning Policy Committee and spent hours and hours going through these documents, I'm pleased to second this motion. The only disappointment is that this whole process takes so long. As Councillor Brackenbury said, it's taken 2.5 years from submission to adoption. That's not down to this council, that's down to the inspectorate. That means that the information is always a little out of date. But that being the case, I second the motion.
Thank you. Councillors wishing to speak. can I call on Councillor Andy Mercer?
I was leader of East Northants Council when we started this process, believe it or not, in 2007. I know it sounds incredible, but it's taken 16 years from when we started it to when we got to the point where it was adopted, which is ridiculous. The extant plan in East Northamptonshire is dated 1996, and we've been living with that ever since. Obviously, the existing plan is grossly out of date, but even this plan is not bang up to date because it's taken 2.5 years since it was submitted to get to this point. So I'm looking forward to seeing a successor to this one fairly soon after, within a couple of years, to actually get us up to date at last. However, having said that, this is a big improvement on what we had before. The north part of East Northants, the rural North Oundle and Thrapston area, has been governed by what's called the Arnott Plan. The Arnott Plan had major flaws. The biggest one was that it had the definition of all settlements being defined by a fixed boundary around the edge of them. And that boundary was drawn so tight that in some cases it even cut off the rear parts of some dwellings. So you found that your conservatory or your back garden were outside the settlement technically. This plan is much more sensible and instead uses criteria to decide whether or not you're within the settlement, which is how it should be, rather than crazy, really tight elastic bands that cut off significant parts of the community. So this is a big improvement. We needed it, but it's a step as far as I'm concerned, and we've got another step to make. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no other Councillor Desdale, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to see this local plan come forward to guide developers. I've seen over the last 2 weeks at the Weekly Hall Wood public inquiry in Thrapston how even the adopted joint core strategy can be interpreted differently from how it was intended by a developer. Hearing barristers and council and appellant expert witnesses debate for several hours the size definition of small-scale B8 warehouses versus small units has been quite the experience. And this is all because the specific definitions were not included in the plan. I suspect the next plan will include that definition. So I welcome this and to guide developers and protect against unwanted development. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor David Brackenbury, do you wish to...
Well, thank you very much, Madam Chairman, and just to wind up on that, and thank you for all the supportive comments that have come. Councillor Mercer is of course right. No planning policy document exists in a vacuum, and every planning policy document becomes out of date the day it's published. And of course it takes a long time to amass the evidence base, which is so important. I mean, you can put whatever you like in a planning policy document, but it has to survive inspection and it has to have a robust evidence base. So it is very important to get these things right and as right as possible. But of course, I will reassure colleagues that work is now going on to work on the North Northamptonshire Strategic Plan, which will replace the current Joint Core Strategy, which, as Councillor Dell observes, was adopted some years ago and it naturally begins to lose its weight as time moves on and as circumstance moves on. So the planning policy part of North Northamptonshire is never still. They never sleep. They can't, because they keep having to refresh and renew the evidence base for all the various plans that are coming forward. But I do thank everybody who's made comments this evening. I think it's really good news. We've got a good suite of planning policy, and I commend the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. The motion's been moved and seconded. We will now move to the vote. Can you please use your electronic voting buttons? You will have 30 seconds to vote.
The vote is now commencing. There are 10 seconds remaining. The vote has now ended.
Chair, that's 61 votes in favour, 0 abstentions and 0 against.
The vote is carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 10 on your agenda is local council tax support scheme for 2024 to 2025. May I please see Councillor Lloyd Bunday to present and move the report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the 16th of November, I presented a report to the Executive on the Local Council Tax Support Scheme 23-24 to enable them to make a recommendation to Council for 24-25. The scheme applies to working age claimants only, as the government prescribes the scheme for pensionable age claimants. When the Unitary Authority came into being on the 1st of April 2021, a single local council tax support scheme was consulted on and implemented for North Northamptonshire Council and resulted in a scheme where all working age claimants were required to pay a minimum of 25% towards their council tax liability. The Local Government Finance Act 1992, Section 13A, amended by the Local Government Finance Act 2012, stipulates that for each financial year, each billing authority must consider whether to continue its local council tax support scheme or replace it with another one. In the years following this decision, it has been agreed to maintain the same level of council tax support. The Executive now recommends to full Council that the level is maintained for a further year. There are around 17,493 claimants in receipt of the local council tax support in North Northamptonshire. Of these, 57% are of working age and 43% of pensionable age. The current scheme expenditure for this financial year is £16.7 million. This may change by the end of the year depending on whether claimant's caseload increases or decreases. Paragraph 5.6 sets out what funding is available for those households that are in particular hardship, and 5.7 the cost to the council of the scheme in the last financial year, and 5.8 this year so far. The recommendation is set out at paragraph 3.1, and I'm happy to propose this recommendation to the council, Chair.
Thank you. May I please see a seconder? Councillor Prentice.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yep, happy to second the item. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no speakers wishing to speak, so the motion has been moved and seconded. We will now move to the vote. Could you please use your electronic voting system?
The vote has commenced. There are 10 seconds remaining. The vote has now ended.
Chair, that is 57 votes in favour, 2 abstentions and 0 against.
Thank you. The vote is carried. Okay. We'll move on to item 11, which is the council tax base rate for 2024-25. May I please see Councillor Lloyd Bunday to present and move this report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is the statutory responsibility of the Council Tax Billing Authority to set a tax base for its area. The tax base isn't the exact number of properties within the area, but a notional figure if all properties were within Band D. It also takes into consideration factors such as growth and collectability. The resulting calculation equates to a Band D equivalent tax base of 117,611 properties before applying the expected tax collection rate of 98.5, which reduces this to 115,847. The recommendation of paragraph 3 reflects this, which is an increase from last year of 1,568 properties. This also reflects a growth of 1.4%. And with that, Madam Chair, I'm happy to recommend propose the recommendation.
Thank you. May I please see a seconder for the motion? Councillor Smythe.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I fully support and also the recommendations within the report.
Okay, thank you. We've had a proposer. I have no councillors wishing to speak, so we will move straight to the vote. Would please use your electronic voting buttons. Thank you.
The vote has now commenced. There are 10 seconds remaining. The vote has now ended.
Thank you. That is 61 votes in favour, 1 abstention and 0 against.
Thank you. The motion is carried. Item 12 on your agenda is a capital budget update for 2003-2024. Sorry. May I again see, please see Lloyd Bunday to present and move this report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. May I remind members that this is not an opportunity to debate the merits of either scheme. This has been done and agreed at previous meetings. This is a recommendation for Council to approve the funding for changes to the capital programme. The first is for Kettering Library roof replacement and associated work to the roof of the Art Gallery, budget approval for £6.807 million in the year 23-24, which is to be funded from borrowing, which was agreed at the last executive meeting in November. The second is budget approval for environment of £0.79 million, £600,000 in 23-24 and £190,000 in 24-25 from the Integrated Transport Block budget for 23-24 and 24-25 to the Isham Bypass Scheme. This decision was taken pursuant to the urgency provisions in the Council's constitution and has been outlined in paragraph 7.2.2. The recommendations are set out at paragraph 3.1 and I'm happy to propose them, Chair.
Thank you. May I please see a seconder for the motion? Councillor Clive Hallam.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. As we said, we're not going into the detail on these items, but I would like to mention one that's close to my heart, and that is the A509 Isham Bypass, we talk about the length of time some of these plans take to go through. It's now 35 years since it was first decided that we needed the A509 at Isham bypassing. Having said that, things have changed somewhat. It is now an important part of the infrastructure plans for North Northants, and we're pleased to see it move on. I'd like to very briefly just say a huge thank you to those members and officers who have taken the time to come out and talk to residents and help explain why there have been various delays and so on. With a little nudge occasionally, we've had various reports, well, more reports this last year than we've ever had in the past, and as we move forward with this next phase, that hopefully will continue to come through. So I am very pleased to second all of these projects. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. One councillor wishing to speak, Councillor Valerie Anslow.
Thank you. I'm glad that NNC are committed to the Isham bypass, as it was a commitment by the Borough of Wellingborough, who allocated £1 million to the scoping work before NNC came into being. It's great to see yet again a commitment to this much needed bypass. Having travelled here this evening and only just got here on time, coming through Isham is a bit of a nightmare. But the timing of this is quite interesting. It's as though the bypass goes into hibernation and only comes out when it's politically good. Anyway, it's gone quite quiet, and it comes out, and it's come out at this point to ensure the people of Isham that it will be done. It has taken 35 years to get to that point. I hope it doesn't take another 35 years for it actually to be completed. But I'm just interested in the timing of this money. And I'll leave it at that for you to think about.
Thank you. Councillor Lee, Anne Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wondered, there's not a lot of information in detail. What applications have been made to funds such as the National Lottery and other funds to obtain this money to get those repairs done? And will councillors be informed, because we have not been given any quotes? The Project Management Board should have one ward councillor on it. None of the ward councillors so far has been approached to sit on the Project Management Board. So the information is quite sparse on this project, and it is a huge amount of money. Lots of residents have responded to that. So we are accountable to the taxpayers to explain that we are making best use of this money. So also the matter of whether this sum will include maintenance for the future years is important, because a Collie Western roof should last 100 to 200 years depending on the maintenance, and the fact this one has only lasted 100 years shows that maybe the maintenance was not optimal. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Fedorovic.
Thank you, Chair. Both of these projects are obviously very important. Mainly a few points I wanted to mention about the report itself. So I wasn't particularly impressed with the amount of transparency on both of these items, considering that, we've got some previous papers listed, but going through some of those, a lot of their detail was actually quite difficult to reach. And I think that should have been much more clearly laid out in this report, especially as we're deciding on quite a substantial amount of money that has come to this come to full council. The amounts also should have been included for the Isham bypass in the previous capital investments, really for both of these. And the library we've known about for some time, so the fact that this is coming forward in this manner is not particularly impressive. I also wanted to note about, also similar notes about the timing, the releasing money on important projects like this, and it coming at a bit of a strategic time for elections, and I just hope that that isn't for anything untoward with regards to political gain. I don't think we're like that in this council, I hope not. And yes, I'm also a little bit concerned with the process of the approval as well. This has all been delegated and there hasn't been really any scrutiny before it's come to us, which is the way it is, but I'm still concerned with this substantial amount of money. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jason Smithers, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Well, look, the Isham Bypass, it's a project that's been 40 years in the making, and we're now looking to be putting a spade into the ground to start digging. Not me personally, of course, because that would be like too much hard work. However, there was a commitment, and I do acknowledge from Councillor Anslow the £1 million that was generously put into the budget pot whilst I was at the County Council from the Wellingborough Borough Council of the Borough Council of Wellingborough at the time. I do recall that meeting, actually, because something else happened in that meeting, if you recall. But I never recalled seeing you in that meeting, Councillor Anslow, so I don't know how you would vote. I might be wrong, of course, but hey, if I am, please correct me. Talking about unlocking investment in that area, what a fantastic opportunity we have going down that corridor. Once that bypass is open, it unlocks tremendous opportunities along there, and for house building, for everything, and it's going to be an absolute fantastic solution for the bottleneck that the residents of Isham have to suffer day in, day out, and my thoughts are with them on that, because it is quite a hectic transport link through there. I must object to the tone by Councillor Feredovic and yourself, Councillor Anslow, about, is this investment at a time when there's a political issue going on? That's not the case. That's insulting to our officers. They lead on these projects, and I think they're very professional individuals, and I think you should both retract those statements because it's insulting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dorothy Maxwell, please.
I would like to say that the library is not just a library. It's also an art gallery, and it's an art gallery we do not have in this part of the county. And I think to actually make sure that this actually gets done, at the cost unfortunately is expensive, but this is a Grade 2 listed building, and at the end of the day it's going to serve the whole community, not just a few. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Matt Binley.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I wasn't going to say anything until some of the absolute preposterous comments that were made earlier about timings. You might as well say, yes, the Martians have got a hand in this as well, because that's basically what you're saying. It's nothing about timing. I can tell you for a fact that when I took over as portfolio holder, there were discussions between myself and the leader as to what were some of the key priorities for the portfolio. And funnily enough, the Isham Bypass was right up there at the top. Just because you don't know about everything that's going on, that our officers are really busy behind closed doors working away at, doesn't mean that they're not happening. It comes back to this image of the swan. Nice, calm, above water, below the water, busy paddling away. And that's exactly what our officers have been doing with this. Of course, this has come forward in part due to a government announcement. However, it's been worked on all the way through. The officers have been working on the outline business case to get that ready for submission. The DFT have changed some criteria. They need to see some additional modelling. That is why this has come forward. It's quite clear. It's nothing about timings to do with any elections. They're just plain conspiracy theories, and the leader is absolutely right that that is grossly unfair to our officers who have been working tirelessly on this, absolutely tirelessly. I think that's really unfair.
Thank you. Councillor John Paul Carr, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think in the spirit of Christmas, I think we should be looking forward to this as being a present for North Northamptonshire. Just to correct some members on our side, the Isham Bypass was first proposed in the 1930s, nearly 100 years ago. So let's, and in that period of time, we've had successive different governments, we've had successive different councils and councillors, I hasten to add. So I think we just need to move forward with the bypass. I look forward very much to it opening and being able to travel on it. I like going to Kettering. I like coming to Corby. It will be an access road for those purposes, and obviously also the surrounding areas. In regards to the library, you'll know how I mentioned all the sort of history and background last time to it. We are very lucky to have such a facility, not just in Kettering, but in Northamptonshire, to serve all of our residents. In regards to the suggestion that a Collie Western slate lasts 200 years, just did a quick search on Google, because Google obviously answers everything in our world today, doesn't it? And it all depends on all sorts of factors. In actual fact, doing a quick search through the information I've just looked at, a Collie Western slate of the size, roof size that we are talking about, lasts between 100 to 150 years. Lo and behold, we're halfway through that period, aren't we? Well, more than halfway through that period. You know, we're sort of between 125 years old, because it was opened in 1904. I look forward very much to Kettering Library open, as I'm sure everybody does in this room. And I'm sure if there's opportunities anywhere along the way of getting grants and engagement work and partnership with people in Northamptonshire, in Kettering as a whole, I am sure this council will welcome that opportunity, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Councillor Helen Howell, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not overly sure how many times I can keep repeating myself with regards to the Kettering Library roof. We talk about, so this was debated at the last full council meeting, it was debated at the last executive meeting, which you're all welcome to, you know, you can all turn up to these meetings and take part and speak at them. So it's not that any information has been hidden at all, it's that members just haven't bothered to turn up to listen to the information. So that would be useful if you did turn up and did get that information, or even watch it online. I mean, it's all there. Quite happy for you to take part in it. As for not engaging with anybody, I mean, one of the questions that's coming up later, as you'll notice, I have given out numerous member briefings over the last month, at least 4 that I know of. I've done press releases, I've done media releases, I've done videos explaining everything that's going on. And I honestly don't know how much more information can be put out there. You know, everybody knows what's going on here with this roof now, surely to goodness, because stakeholders have been engaged with, everybody has. Maybe the member would like to perhaps check her emails, that probably would be useful. As for the users, it's all over social media, it's all in the news, it's everywhere. Oh, it's not a question answer, this is my chance to stand up. Thank you very much, Councillor. As for the maintenance beat, well, I'm getting it directly. Yeah, thank you, Councillor. It's quite all right. I'm sure the Chair can speak for herself. As for the maintenance budget, that's nothing to do with this project. This is a roof replacement project. It's not a maintenance budget. There will be ongoing maintenance budgets apportioned to all of our buildings that we own. So it's not included in this. You mentioned grants. I have so many times spoken about, at this moment in time, all of those granting opportunities aren't there. We can't get those grants. However, in the future, should other grants be made available, of course we will apply for them. It is a lot of money, it is. But would you rather we didn't do it? So that's the question, really. You know, we've got to maintain this building. We've committed as an executive to put this building right. Surely you're going to support this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm now going to pass to Councillor Laura Lormond.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to take this opportunity to actually thank those officers who have been working tirelessly on the Isham bypass case. In the ideal world, yes, things would progress much, much quicker, but this is a huge, huge project. And in the 35 years that I have lived in the UK, I can't count the amount of times I had to drive through Isham at all various times of the day. and it's absolutely horrendous. And therefore, I can't wait for the first sod to be turned at the Ayrsham bypass, and hopefully our leader will do that to turn the first sod. And it's going to make a big difference. A lot of things have changed over the last 2.5 years. Yes, NNC inherited that project, I believe, from the County Council, where it was worked upon for a long, long time already. We know that Wellingborough Borough Council at the time gave very generously, as the leader said, £1 million. I remember sitting in that meeting, as far as I recall it, and yes, it was distributing the savings or the pots of money we've had, and that was found was one of the best projects we could think of that would help all people in the area. And rather than being negative about it and putting a political spin on it, I think it's about time that we say thank you to our officers, and especially Mr. Graham Kane and his team, because they've worked tirelessly. And thank you also to the leader and the appropriate portfolio holder now, who are supporting still this project.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Paul Bell, please.
Thank you, Chair. You'll excuse if I say so. We sit here complaining about giving money to the Ayrsham bypass. Well, if you live in Wellingborough, we're cut off. If the Ayrsham bypass isn't there, you have to go through Ayrsham. And I know Councillor Hounslow did, as I did tonight, went through at snail's pace. But if you've got a sick child in Wellingborough, as I have had in the past, and you're waiting for an ambulance or a doctor, 6 to 8 hours for them to get there. And we still sit here 40 odd years later bitching about it. I'm sorry about the language. Let's get the bloody thing built, please, and stop it. There's so many people affected. The people of Ayrsham have suffered it for a good 100 years or more. And if you really want to know what it's like, be there at 7 o'clock in the morning with Radio Northampton, where 1,000 lorries pass through that village in less than an hour. And then we go on complaining or moan of trying to get political gain. But what about the houses being built in Wellingborough on Grenwell Park? Phase 1 can build, I think, 700 or 800 houses. No, 1,200, sorry. Phase 2 can't start till the bypass is built. That's another 1,500 homes for the people of North Northamptonshire. Let's stop finding reasons to moan about it. Let's congratulate the officers for doing a brilliant job, and let's just get on, road it through, and get that road dug as quickly as possible, preferably with the chairman and the leader digging the first sod.
Thank you. Councillor McGee, John McGee.
Thank you, Chair. I don't think I've heard anybody on this side saying that they don't want the Ayrsham bypass. I don't think I heard any of you saying that. Did anybody say that on this side? No, I don't think so. We all think it's a great thing. It's been in their pipeline as far as I can remember, and I've been doing it 26 years and we've been talking about it. The people of Ayrsham and around that area deserve the Ayrsham bypass if the money's there. We know how the money's there now, and it didn't come from the Martians that Councillor Binley seems to talk about. Don't know what land he's living in at the moment, but it's a good thing. We support both of these, but we in opposition here are here to challenge and ask the right questions. And because we want some answers, doesn't mean we don't support things, we just want clarity. And if yous would be more open instead of as a dictatorship, we wouldn't have to ask the questions. Would we? I'm for one not going to say this is about an election, because if it was, I'd be shouting about that, because we know these play games, our political games get played unfortunately, but this council should be working across all parties and talking to each other properly and not dictating to us. Ask anybody on this side if they've had any input to any of the stuff that happened in this paper. Ask anybody if we've had an input. We haven't, have we? We might have done it county council because it was a more open process. Even when your leader was the head of highways, it's a bit more open, not much, but it's a bit more open. But it seems to have went downhill for there. So what we're saying is stop dictating, let us ask our questions, that's what we're here to do, but get us more involved and this sort of stuff won't happen. But we welcome both, and we have got concerns about the borrowing and all that money that's been spent, but the projects are good projects, and I'm sure we'll support them.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Russell Roberts, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to get up and say something positive. I do believe that at the last meeting, 2 meetings ago, I did thank Anne-Lee for bringing this subject about the library forward. And I did say on that night, we need to find ways of working together. I'd like to say a great yippee that we're going to mend our library and art gallery and build a road so that the people of Wellingborough can use it along with us. But I would like to thank Madam Chair, the staff, the library staff, who have been working for many, many years, as I know, with a leaking roof. And they're going to have to work very hard in the interim period, but when there's a bright, shiny new roof on the library, everybody's welcome to Kettering. Come and celebrate it. Merry Christmas.
Right, thank you. I have no other speakers. Yes. I'll now move back to Councillor Bunday to make any closing statement.
Thank you, Chair. Seems a while ago that I said this wasn't discussing the merits of the project, but about asking for permission for the money. The approval for the library funding tonight kicks off procurement. That's why you haven't got any more information, because that's something that we are waiting for this council, because we don't dictate. We are waiting for you to approve it, and then we can actually go forward on that. As far as the Isham bypass goes, we were forced into a situation because the DFT changed the goalposts. It's as simple as that. So we have a leaking roof of a library, 120 years old. It's lasted very well. Just another history lesson for John Paul to bear in mind. There's other buildings within our portfolio of this council that are a lot younger than that have leaky roofs and have cost a lot of money to fix them.
Thank you. We've had a motion which is proposed and seconded. We will now move to the vote. Can you please use your electronic voting system?
The vote has now commenced. There are 10 seconds remaining. The vote has now ended.
Thank you. That is 60 votes in favour, 1 abstention and no votes against.
Thank you. The vote is carried. Thank you. Okay. We'll move on to item 13, councillors.
Could we have quiet for the chair, please?
Thank you. We'll move on to item 13, which is the annual report of the service delivery contract between Northamptonshire Children's Trust and West and North Northamptonshire Councils 2022 to 23. And an update on the annual review. May I please see Councillor Edwards to present and move this report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So under the contractual arrangements, there is a requirement to produce an annual report. This report in front of you, all 370 pages of it, contains all the performance results within the past year. The Ofsted reports that have been conducted are also included. There are a total of 21 KPIs that were agreed with the Trust, and these are outlined within the report. Some of these KPIs have fallen below target and have a clear plan to be worked on. but you will have noted that the ILAC in November moved the children's services from inadequate to requires improvement. There is still some way to go, but recent indications show we are moving it into the right direction. A new partnership and early help improvement strategy was launched this year, and early help remains a top priority. The Youth Offending Service had its most recent Ofsted, where a good was received. The service was seen as impressive, innovative, creative and child-focused. In 2022, the North Council invested an investment into the Circle to Success programme to be delivered within the Trust, and this has worked well and is continuing to work well. The majority of children's homes have been graded as good, and this is a clear plan for the one that is required as improvement. And there has been a significant development in children's homes to help towards sufficiency requirements. North Council's property team have been working hard and with NCT to develop further opportunities. Care leavers are also a top priority, and work has been done to support accommodation and work possibilities for them. The outturn position for 22 to 23 resulted in an overspend of 21.435 million, split between the two councils. This is mainly down to increased demand and placements. This year's contract is under review, but a new transformation board has been agreed between the three parties for future use. You'll see from the report that audits has also been an issue over the past year, and this has been highlighted by our audit chair, Councillor Weatherall. A plan has been put in place to rectify this, and some audits have already been commenced. We are set for another Ofsted inspection early next year and are currently in the middle of an adoption inspection. More focus has been put on children at the centre of everything we do and ensuring the child's voice is heard. I ask you to support the recommendations at 3.1.
Thank you. Please see a seconder for the motion. Councillor Lorman.
Madam Chairman, I second the report and reserve the right to speak.
Okay. Thank you. I don't see any councillors wishing to speak on this item. Sorry, I do now. Councillor Valerie Anslow, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The Children's Trust was a result, wasn't it, of Northamptonshire County Council's poor record. It's a separate entity with the North and West working differently, and it's outlined in 4.6 that they're not working together. It appears that we're all trying to make our own mark on the children's services rather than working together for the best outcome. The LGA identified this as an area for improvement, to get on the same page, basically, and to strengthen the overall governance of the corporate parenting board. But I'd like to comment mostly on 7.1, which reports the increase in demand in services in 2022-23, and citing the cost of living, COVID, and universal services not operating during the pandemic. It then goes on to admit the early help offer by NCC and by us, NNC, was and is underdeveloped, and that children's needs are more complex now. There's got to come a point, you know, where this authority holds up its hands and admits that 13 years of underfunding by the government is largely to blame for the increase in the service demand. The closure of Sure Start centres and other services offering early help to parents means we now have a generation of parents and children who've been left behind. We're playing catch-up. We're paying now for the decisions made years ago. Those austerity years may have saved money in one hand, but we're having to pay it now.
Okay.
The government's response of stable homes built on love is frankly an insult to those families struggling to afford their rents or mortgages, or even living in temporary accommodation and all the stress that goes with that. Is it surprising that there is an increase, and there will be an increase, in the support that's needed, that the Children's Trust is going to cost us more because we saved money in the past? And we need to recognise that.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor. Can I please ask members to restrict their comments to the budget that's in front of us, the report? Thank you. Councillor John McGee, please.
Thank you, Chair, and I will try and keep my remarks to the report. And it would be better if everybody spoke through the chair. After all, that's why you're there. And we get a lot of this attacking us on this side of the table rather than going through the chair. I think that's a great shame.
That would be appreciated. Thank you.
I would never do something like that, Chair, never. So, this report is quite worrying, isn't it? Firstly, where there is good things, Chair. Where there is good things, Chair. Thank you for reminding me there, Councillor. Where there is good things, we should celebrate it. And the York team have done a fantastic job, and well done to the staff there. It's always so hard to do it. It was better the way we had it set out the last time, and then we could just face the chair all the time, isn't it? But you wanted to do something different. But Chair, it is quite a worry. We don't know what the final budget's going to be in the Children's Centre, what they're going to come and ask us for. And we know this council's going to be in the red next year anyway. It's going to be a very difficult year. The next 2 years for this council financially, it's going to be some of the hardest. We spoke about austerity. It'll be worse than that here, the way the council's going and the way that the Children's Centre's asking for more and more money. But you're right, there's a historical reason for that. And some of you lot were there at the time when it failed at North Hampshire County Council. But we have got to be quite strict, Chair. And I don't know who's on the improvement board, and I assume we do have an improvement board made up of councillors from both authorities. And I wish you would open that up, because you've heard passionate people speak on this side of the floor that want to help, but they don't get that opportunity, do they? You've got these improvement boards and other boards where you don't invite oppositions on, even once it's got the experience and the knowledge and the willingness to try and help and make and challenge and help make improvements. And I wish you would just open that up for councillors on this side, from all parties on this side, so that we can have a more democratic council. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Andrew Mercer, please. And can we please focus on the report as set out in the agenda? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I will not address the issues that have been raised by the opposition, even though I have deep concerns that they are misleading people. I will address to the report. The Ofsted report on the fostering service was about the worst I've ever seen. And it was not down to lack of funds. If you don't listen to the children, which is what one of the paragraphs suggested, then you're not going to get a very good outcome. That's got nothing to do with funding. That's all to do with organisation and management. That's all I'll say.
Thank you. Councillor Jason Smithers, please.
Thank you, Chairman. And look, this report's fantastic news. It's showing a trajectory that's moving in the right way for our young people that fall under our responsibility here at North Northamptonshire and at West Northamptonshire. And broadly speaking, the Trust is doing a reasonable job on that. There has been some highlighted parts around governance and audit, which we won't rehearse all of that because we've done that before, and that's something which the Trust are very aware of and are working hard to address. I do feel a little bit sort of perturbed by the barrage coming from here about opening up democracy to the opposition. There's a reason why the opposition, they weren't voted for. However, one of my first meetings I had with the new leader and deputy leader was, well, tell me about your shadow portfolio positions. However, they don't have them, do they? Because it's a little bit of a divide amongst you all. So it couldn't be divided up, Madam Chairman. Hence why we can't involve them, because there's no structure there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fedorovich, please.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the detail in this report. It is good to see that we're moving in the right direction, but I know that we all know.
Sorry, Councillor, can you stand, please, so that you can be identified? Thank you.
Sorry, can you not know who I am? Sorry, apologies. It's a bit easier. Sorry, that was a little bit out. Right, bear with me. It was so that I could actually read my notes, which now I'm finding difficult. So you'll have to bear with me. Bear with me. Right. And the hazards of having to stand. Right, bear with me. Right, so thank you. Yes, so we're good, moving in the right direction, but financially this is a really big concern. We all know that. We all need to continue to dig into this further. And the question I had was regarding page, bear with me, 483. Essentially, it was regarding, well, this is really helpful now. You'll have to bear with me now because I can't find my point. There we are, 5.2. Page 477, we have a note here about the member working group that's going to be meeting with the NCT Audit Committee to discuss future audit plans, and arrangements are being put in place for that, which is great. So my question was about when will this be in place and what's the plan with it, and are there any other things that we can look at, such as working groups through scrutiny to further assess this, because we know that we need to dig into this in more detail. Thank you very much.
Okay. Councillor Lorman. Councillor Lorman, you wish to speak?
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Fedorovich, it was in scrutiny, and perhaps if somebody from your side had been there, you would have understood all the complexities. But the papers were also, I think, available on ModGov for everybody to read. And we have, and I'm sure Councillor Buckingham, and she is nodding, Madam Chairman, we have dissected everything in the budget and asked a lot of questions. But this is the annual report. And yes, there are things that have to improve. I think we are all clear with that. But they have gone into the right direction. Just look at the Ofsted report that was mentioned. The Ofsted report, if it had been not required improvements, if it had been worse than that, nobody would have been happy with that. So they have made small improvements, but I have got full trust in the new panel that has been set up with the leader of the of West Northamptonshire Council, plus the Children's Trust, and under the wonderful guiding hands of Mr. Watts, who is working very, very hard, and it's become so apparent in the scrutiny sessions we've had, where his influence is there, and what better than having a 3-4-way group really going down deep into the complexities of the Children's Trust. And I have no problem. Yes, I have spoken in budget scrutiny very, very loudly that what improvements are needed. I'm sure the audit chairman has done exactly the same at the executive. But as an annual report, I can see bit by bit by bit improvements. And we've got to be there to support the Children's Trust, because if we don't do anything, we are failing our children. And it is a statutory requirement. And at the end, whether it is a lot of money or not, there are children that have to have our help to have a good future.
Thank you. Well, that's the end of the debate. I'm sorry, Councillor Buckingham. Councillor Lorman has spoken for her right to come back and speak. So I will move to Councillor Edwards to make any closing comments.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you for the comments. Councillor Anslow, in your hometown of Wellingborough, Family Hubs is replacing Shore Star. And I know you have been along to it, so I know what great work that is doing. It is coming to Corby, it is coming to Kettering, and it is coming to the old East Northants Authority as well. So that's working with the trust and getting that done, the early help. Early help is vital, I appreciate that, We all appreciate that, and that is number one on our agenda. Councillor McGee, yeah, absolutely, finance transformation. It's chaired by Jenny Coles, the Improvement Board. So we do have an Improvement Board. We are governed by who can sit on those, but it is chaired by an independent person, so you will have known Jenny Coles, I'm sure. So the Improvement Board does exist. We do have a great working relationship with the West, and Fiona, my counterpart in the West, regularly meet up and have a chat over. We may have differences, but you know, that's life sometimes, differences. But at the end of the day, we always get together for the benefit of the children. Councillor Mercer, the fostering report, yes, it wasn't great, but the plan and actually the intermediate inspections that we've had since then have shown a really positive inspection through that, and we wait next year to have another full inspection on that. Emily, financial scrutiny, yes, on Monday of this week, I think it was, and in fact, Councillor Hakewell was there, so we did discuss looking at it and looking at different ways of scrutinising the trust, where we can do it, because some of it we cannot scrutinise it, because obviously we are contracted into a contractual arrangement. And Councillor Lorman, thank you for your support. I know you sit on the Corporate Parenting Board as well, and you offer some really positive comments about that. And you are absolutely right. At the end of the day, it's about the children. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion has been moved and seconded. We will now move to the vote. Please use your electronic voting system.
The vote has now commenced. There are 10 seconds remaining. The vote has now ended.
Thank you. There are 61 votes in favour, 0 abstentions and 0 against.
Thank you. The vote is carried. Before we move to item 14 on the agenda, I'd like to propose that we have a comfort break. This would be 10 minutes. Do I have a seconder for... Thank you, Councillor Lorman. Please return to your seats within that time because we will recommence the debate. Thank you.
We would like to recommence the meeting, please.
Thank you. Well, we still have items of business to conclude at this meeting. So could I please ask members from both sides to respect the debate and moderate their language and address the meeting via the chair, if you would, please. But if we can make any comments concise, that would be appreciated, so we avoid the need for any guillotine. Thank you. Item 14 on the agenda is motions on notice. We have one motion on notice for consideration at this meeting, as printed on your agenda papers. Please note that I expect all contributions to be concise, and please respect the time limits that apply. A mover of the motion has 5 minutes to speak. All other contributions are a maximum of 3 minutes. Thank you. Motion 1 is in front of you. I understand that the mover of the motion, as set on the agenda, has requested that the motion be amended as it now appears on the screen. Can I ask Councillor Leanne Buckingham to confirm the motion and the amendment?
I can confirm. Would you like me to talk through why there are amendments? I was told I was moving the official one and then the amendment.
Right. Can we please have a seconder for the motion? Thank you. Councillor Armour.
It is. Do I get to move the motion? Would it be okay if I moved
Right.
the motion?
The consent of the meeting is required in accordance with Standing Order 19.26. Members should therefore signal their consent by raising their hands. If the meeting consents, then the amended motion will become the substantive item. The motion does need, if the meeting does not consent, then the motion as presented on the agenda remains the substantive motion for the debate. Okay, Councillor Buckingham, over to you.
So, in that confusion, let us go. So at the moment, I believe we're talking to the amendment of the motion. The amendments have been made to make specific reference to those that have already had it devolved. It is wonderful to hear that so many towns are already prospering through their twinning. However, it's not for all, and I think it would be very good for us to look at it. Because this is the amendment, I won't move the substantive motion. Is that true? Yes. Thank you. I get to do that after when this becomes the substantive. So let us vote and move forward. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, this is an amended motion from the mover before the debate has commenced. So it's not an amendment to the motion. This is an amended motion on the agenda. So we're just debating now. So you're moving and debating as if it was the motion on the agenda.
Wonderful. So we're not going to vote to decide that this is the substantive. Who's got to propose it?
Yeah, so what you've done is you've asked for the consent of council to amend the wording of the motion before it's been moved and seconded for debate at council. So essentially what we've done is just altered the wording that was on the agenda paper beforehand. So this is now the motion before council.
So may I just ask for clarification just one more time, because there are many confused faces in the room. I believed the process was that I would move my motion, I would have it seconded, we would then move the amendments, have the discussion, vote, and then this becomes the substantive. If I'm wrong, please tell me.
Councillor, the consent to the amendment is just a signal of consent for the meeting, so there's no actual vote. So because no members indicated that they weren't willing to consent to the amendment, the consent is taken. So therefore, this motion is now, it has been moved, it has been seconded. This becomes the motion, and Councillor, it's now for you to present that motion.
Splendid. Glad that's all clear. We're all clear now. Apologies if I was involved in any of that confusion. So it is wonderful to know that so many towns are already prospering from their twinning. Historically, we all know why we took about twinning across the towns and counties of this country. I've just returned from a quick trip to Poland where I went to Auschwitz, obviously. Why wouldn't you, whilst there? Although it was a harrowing experience. And it really did hit home. This motion was put in before I went to Poland. And I feel more passionately now about it, having seen the conditions and the treatment of some people in this. We were all part of the history of what happened there. Still, to this day, there are too many wars, too much division, too much separation, too much unfairness. And being part of a twin town, definitely as a child growing up in Oundle, learning about our twin town and how those connections were forged, the relationships that have happened since, it would be wonderful for me to be able to do something with my own children to understand the European nation they still live in. Wars are still happening across the country. We even have the Ukrainian flag flying outside because of division still stands. And it is about standing up for what's right, for the greater good, to understand each other's cultural needs. I do understand, just as my notes disappear, I do understand that we have had a change in council, and not all towns have had the benefit of taking their twinning back. Luckily, many things were decided whilst in the shadow phase, and I'm grateful that many of you are already able to forge those relationships and continue them. Unfortunately, Corby doesn't, and not all have. I'm lucky to be a dual hatter, both town and unitary, and be the mayor of Corby. And unfortunately, we had to send apologies earlier on this year. In Velba, one of Corby's twinned towns, they have opened a new council building, which is a wonderful thing for any council to do, isn't it? And they've called one of their rooms the Corby room and wanted the mayor to come and open the office. And unfortunately, Corby wasn't part of that discussion. It's not to say that we can't mend the relationship. It's not to say that we can't look to the future. And I think that's where I want to take my speech now too. There are so many ways in which we can engage and interact that don't cost any money. So I know when we've discussed the motion in our group, there was discussion of, will we be asking for money with this motion? I had no intentions of asking for money because it's more about the personal connections. It's about the shared relationship. It's about shared understanding of each other's cultures. And the beauty is that those twinning relationships have continued to grow. And at the moment, I can speak for Corby because I know it best, unfortunately. Corby has a relationship with France and Germany, and now there's a new one in Poland, which is wonderful because we've got a vibrant Polish community here. And wouldn't it be wonderful to have now a four-way twinning, where we can share sports events, where we could have pen pal writing, where we could have digital engagement between schools in both areas. The motion has changed to represent the devolution, and that's all that's required. I've already had some indication that all you've got to do is ask. I'm trying to do the most professional way by asking. So this isn't political. This is about the people we serve. So I do hope you will support this motion.
Thank you. Councillor Armour, as the seconder, do you wish to speak?
I reserve the right to speak until the end of the debate. Thank you.
Thank you. In that case, I'll move to Councillor Mark Rowley, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I think everyone agrees with the sentiments of Twinnings is an excellent thing to do, and most of the old councils used to have association of some sort with various twins. As executive member for Housing, Communities and Levelling Up, we've got a paper coming forward in February for devolvement of functions to parishes and towns. Therefore, I propose that we include that into this proposal, but I couldn't support the motion on its own.
Sorry, Councillor Rowley, are you proposing an amendment to the motion? No. Okay, thank you. Councillors wishing to speak. Councillor Jill Mercer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't think you'd find a greater advocate of twinning than myself. I've run on and off the Higham Ferrers twinning for 20 years. I ran the county twinning for 15 years. Seen many groups coming to that county twinning, and I think I've rarely seen any that have actually been run by councils. They're normally run by independent groups, which is what my group in Higham Ferrers is. We have an association with the town council, but they are just a partner. They do not run it. We have people from as far away as Wollaston to Raunds on our committee, and we run completely independently. So if the motion was to support twinning, I'd be absolutely wholeheartedly behind it. I think it's fantastic to share experiences and to learn about other countries. I actually studied German myself, and that then enables me to fully take part with the German twinning which we have in Higham Ferrers with Hachenberg. And I love going there, and I love having them come to us and to explain our culture and to learn about theirs. But I can't support this because it's the wrong thing, as Councillor Rowley says. It's the devolving to town councils is not necessarily the right thing to do. Some town councils might want, some might not. And I think this needs a much broader discussion in the paper that Councillor Rowley is bringing forward, to talk to town councils and see if any wish to take it on, and to support it where we can. But I can't support this motion as it stands.
Thank you. Councillor Laura Lorman.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm the Deputy Chairman of the Wellingborough Twinning Association for the German side, probably natural. I can say that I was the very first person who took, about 1989, some civic delegation to our twin town in Wittlich in Germany. And that was solely for the benefit, are they right? Are they not? But the twinning itself, we have a twinning association in Wellingborough who from the moment go were the only ones who were involved in twinning. The only benefit that under the Sovereign Council at the time was that somebody took a decision to pay any resident in Wellingborough and the surrounding villages £25 to travel to the twin town. When we took over as a town council 2.5 years ago, we looked at that, and as you may appreciate, I think Wellingborough's got about 48,000 people because the villages are not part of the town. And if 49,000 people would have travelled to our twin town, the town council couldn't possibly afford it. But it's always been separate. The town council, in its budget consultations, actually had very, very limited response from people in our town, whether they wanted to go or not, which was, in one way, it was quite sad. But we had a town councillor who totally voted against it. that there was no necessity for twinning at all, and the budget should be cut for that. And that was very sad. But it's got to be kept separate. If somebody wants to take over the twinning function, it should have been at the time when we were all a shadow, and Corby was a shadow council as well. And they should have asked perhaps if there was that. I have no idea whether Corby has got a twinning association or something, but I can categorically say Wellingborough has got a separate twinning association that has got nothing to do whatsoever with the town council. And I know from our twin towns, Wittlich and Nyon in France, they have got separate ones as well. If there are civic occasions where they are specifically being asked, yes, then they go. And they may support, but it's limited to that activity only. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no... Oh, sorry. Councillor Helen Howell, please.
Thank you, Chair. I totally get the sentiment of exactly what you're trying... Sorry, I should go straight to the Chair. totally get the sentiment of what you're trying to do. Twinning is a fantastic thing. It forges relationships all over, not necessarily just Europe, it can be all over the world. And it builds those relationships. We learn about different cultures and all sorts. So absolutely, totally get it. My issue with this is the way it's worded. Okay? So what you're basically saying here is recognising the mutual... This council takes responsibility for those that are not devolved, for ensuring the continuity of these relationships. The trouble, if you hand them over to somebody else, you still can't take on that responsibility because it becomes their responsibility. Secondly, the last paragraph, that the council asked for, Councillor Rowley, to look at the formal arrangements for those that are not already devolved, to devolve the twinning of North Northamptonshire towns and villages to their parish and town councils. But we haven't asked them, all of them, if there are any others. We're not too sure how many there are. One, we haven't asked them. Two, what if there is a separate organisation that wants to take it on or that already exists? So that's the problem with this motion. The wording is not correct. And what we would be doing is putting a responsibility on this council when actually that responsibility should probably not be required. So I think that's why we would rather wait till the paper comes forward so that we can look at all options for devolving all of these type of responsibilities down to whoever wants them. And I think that's the easiest thing to do. So that's why I think we probably won't support this motion. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Armour, you wish to come back?
Thank you, Chair. My experience is that our parish and town councils are keen to take on more responsibility. So I feel as though twinning is a prime example of something that could be embraced by them, specific to the fact that the partnerships are localised to the towns and villages within North Northamptonshire. Earlier this year, I was involved in an event which saw Corby Town Council host a group from Velbert. A group came over from Germany, and albeit it wasn't an official twinning event as such, it gave a glimpse of how these previously productive partnerships could be picked up successfully again by parish and town councils. Logistics-wise, I feel it makes sense for the organisation of such visits and partnerships to be organised by those both working and serving close to the towns themselves. So with that, I would be keen to see the executive member look into the formal arrangements for twinning to be devolved. So I do hope this motion is supported. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, Councillor Mercer, I'm not able to take your comments at this time. I will go back to Councillor Buckingham for any closing statements. Yeah, so yeah. Sorry. Councillor Buckingham, please.
Disappointed this motion. We've done this before when we've had discussions about what a motion is, and a motion is the will. It's nice to know that there is a paper. That's the start of this process anyway. The start of this process is to scope out what are the formal arrangements that need to be done, what's the consultation that needs to be had, the offer of devolution to any group. It doesn't necessarily have to be a council. I think the community is very well equipped to deal with their own twinning. And I would absolutely advocate, it would be lovely to have the carnival come back and have our carnival queens and maybe even kings, if those they were desired to travel to and from. I think the nail is already in the coffin. I think it's quite easy to see after you came back from your group meeting which way this is going. It's a shame. It's a fair and just request. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Well, the motion has been proposed and seconded. We will now go to the vote. Will you please use your electronic voting system?
The vote has now commenced. There are 10 seconds remaining. The vote has now ended.
That's 14 votes in favour, 2 abstentions and 44 against.
Okay, so I'm sorry the motion is lost. Thank you. Right, we now move on to the questions. You have the questions with the relevant answer in front of you. Sorry, Councillor Lee, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, please. Yeah. Looking at the last paragraph of the reply, doesn't informing residents via the web pages and social media, considering some users are, well, doesn't informing users, residents via the web pages and social media leave behind library users who are either computer illiterate or, depending on the library's computers, which are not available, who would actually be best informed through an informative notice on the front of the library door? Thank you.
Okay. Well, Councillor Howell.
Thank you for your supplementary question, Councillor Lee. There are always going to be certain elements of the public who we can't approach because we don't know who they are. I don't have a list of those individuals that you're talking about unless you do. We can make direct contact with them. We have tried every aspect. I think I mentioned it earlier. We've put articles in the press. So it's not just about on the websites and things like, well, we've done pretty much everything we can. So, but as I said, Councillor Lee, if you have a list of them, I'm more than happy to send out a communication to them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Question 2, you have the question in front of you with the written response. Councillor Lee, do you have a supplementary question?
No, Chair. I'd like to thank Councillor Smithers for the answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Question 3. Again, you have the question in front of you with the written response. Councillor Addison, do you have any supplementary question?
Yes, Chair. Thank you for the response. I'd like to just quickly cite 2 cases. There is a question at the end. Be patient with me, thank you. Miss F, who is an autistic young lady who has communication problems, has been waiting since 2021 for the ceiling to be replaced in her flat. Her father was told very recently, this week I believe, that it was her duty to contact the private landlord upstairs to get the repair done. Thank you. There are questions coming, Leader. Thank you. Miss M, who's lived in a flat for 6 years, has 2 young children. One has already been hospitalised with respiratory problems.
Sorry, Councillor, do you have a supplementary question?
I do have it. I'm just citing some cases. Thank you.
Well, can I ask
right,
you...
the question is, when will these cases be dealt with prior to 2023? Why are these people who have already been run down by the government be further run down by this council not dealing with repairs in a timely manner? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Mark Rowley, do you wish to respond?
Yeah, I obviously can't comment on individual cases because I haven't got the information in front. I will come back with some information once, if you send me the information, I'll investigate it.
Okay. Thank you. Question 4. Councillor Zoe McGee, do you have a supplementary question?
Always, Chair, yes, thank you. So, my question is, through you, Chair, thank you very much. Does the leader have a justification for the fact that while this process is going on, the standards of living for our residents and their mental health is going into absolute disrepair while we wait for a broken system and we wait for this shortly to arrive? So through you, Chair, I request the leader's justification for this.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Smithers, do you wish to verbally respond?
Thank you, Chair. No, you've proven that fact. But sorry, Chair, through you. The system's not broken. We are working with it. It has dealt with many members' communications over the last 6 months. Yes, any new system isn't perfect. However, we're working at pace to deliver a solution that gets it to a higher level than where it is at the moment. All I ask is members appreciate the amount of inquiries that come through that system and the ability to streamline those. And in order to give members updates in timely fashions, we're going to work doubly hard to ensure that it's amended to fit the bill.
Right, thank you. Question 5. Councillor Buckingham, do you have a supplementary question?
I don't have a supplementary question, but I will state so the report hasn't been done, and it should be by now.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Mark Rowley, do you wish to respond? Sorry? No question. Right. Question 6 is Councillor Anslow, do you have a supplementary question? And can I please just have the question?
I would like to put a bit of context, if you don't mind, because I'm sure you were all shocked to hear of the death of a person who was homeless in Wellingborough on Monday, even when SWEP had been called. So my question is...
Sorry, Councillor Anslow.
I haven't mentioned a name. I do
Sorry.
not know if he tried to access
Councillor
SWEP,
Anslow.
But what I'd
Councillor
like to know...
Anslow, please.
The question?
I just need the question.
Yeah,
You
so the
cannot
question
introduce
is-
supplementary information.
So can I please ask that members are informed when SWEP is called? Well, I wasn't. I wasn't.
So can I please
Thank
go
you.
to Councillor Rowley to respond?
Thank you, Chair. Every council member was informed on the 29th of the 11th that the current SWEP was in place.
Right. Sorry, councillors, can we please keep any comments to the debate? Thank you. Question 7. Councillor Anslow, can you please ask your question?
Breakdown of numbers. Could the same breakdown be given for the number in temporary accommodation who accessed this via the rough sleeper team?
Councillor Rowley, do you wish to respond?
If Councillor Anslow would send me that on an email, I'm happy to sort out a response.
Thank you. Question 8. Councillor Anslow, can I ask you for a supplementary?
Did the petition officer who decided where the recall petition was going to be signed know that Findon Division included a good part of Wellingborough?
Okay. Well, I understand Councillor, Adele Wiley will respond in that respect. Thank you.
The mic isn't working. The microphone isn't working.
Getting one. Okay, if anyone didn't hear that, there will be a written response. Okay, question 9. Councillor Armour, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I do. I'm grateful for the answer, and I just want to start by saying that the new lane markings and the signs that have went in there have made a significant difference. I understand higher priorities and everything like that, but I was just wanting to know what is determining the priority of this project now. Because we can't just go by the collision numbers since the lane markings have went in, which thankfully is none. I'm sure this information is very useful for the residents living there, but they are really still keen to see this barrier. And inevitably, I hope it gets over the line as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Matt Binley, do you wish to respond?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Councillor Armour, forgive me, I think I've kind of worked out what your question was, so if I haven't, please do pick it up with me afterwards. But I think you're kind of asking, basically what does deem things to be a priority, and of course there is a matrix that's in place with regards to looking at these things. We have a whole team of people who do actually look at things such as accident reports, hence how we know with regards to this one the significant impact that it's made with regards to this. Of course, as the answer, the original answer does quote, we fully accept that, the work still needs to be carried out, but unfortunately there are other priority areas whereby, unfortunately, we have fatal road traffic collisions on our roads. Of course, we don't want any of those, and those types of areas where there is that significant risk, they do have to be prioritised. That's not to dismiss this scheme. The scheme still needs to go ahead, and I assure you that officers are working on this. They want to see it completed as much as anybody else. Okay?
Thank you. Well, questions 10 and 11 were not able to take as Councillor Hakewill is not present at the meeting. So that actually concludes all the questions for tonight's meeting. There are no urgent items of business on this occasion. Before I formally close the meeting, though, Adele Wiley was not present in the room when we formally elected her or approved her appointment to Chief Executive. So I think we now take this opportunity to formally thank her and congratulate her on her new appointment. So. Right. Well, it's now my duty to close the meeting, and with that, I'd like to wish you all a very happy Christmas and all the very best for the new year.